Hello everybody, welcome to our tap room. While we are waiting for everybody who is late to join, could you please send me in the questions whether you can hear me well and see the picture well. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Perfect. So today we are going to talk about network interfaces that we have in StarWind and our recommendations in terms of network configuration. So I guess all of you saw this banner, so we can simply skip it. Here, that's me. I was recently promoted to Director of Support Department, and I am the Director of Support Department now. And we can move to the quick overview of today's topic. So I'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to configure iSCSI and synchronization channels in StarWind. It's not something special. It's going to be like simple network configuration. And we will also talk a little bit about Jumbo frames. And as always, we'll have questions and answers at the very end. So let's move on. Let's open up our pre-configured environment and how we would usually recommend having your network links in general for iSCSI and synchronization. How we usually do that is if you're building a two-node hyperconverged setup, we recommend having two dedicated StarWind NICs in each box. So those two NICs will be used only by StarWind, and there's nothing else should be running on them. And we also recommend them configuring like connecting them just simply with a crossover cable, so switchless. And like in terms of physical network configuration, that is it. So if you're building a two-node hyperconverged scenario, we would recommend having at least two NICs. One is going to be for the synchronization, the other one for iSCSI, and just an Ethernet crossover cable running from like iSCSI port 1 to iSCSI port 2, then synchronization port 1 to synchronization port 2. If you want those NICs to be redundant, then you would need to have 4 of them. So 2 for iSCSI and 2 for synchronization. You can go with 1 gigabit or with 10 gigabit depending on what storage do you have. If your storage is very fast and is faster than 1 gigabit, 1 gigabit with a little bit of overhead in general would provide you with about 35,000 IOPS. So if your storage goes faster than that, you definitely should consider switching to 10 gigabit links. If not, then 1 gigabit will work perfectly. So when we have those network cards physically installed in the server, in the server 1 and server 2, and we have a crossover cable plugged in on first server and second server, just port to port, we'll have those NICs listed in our Windows server or ESXi. Basically, it is the same thing, for both. Over here, you will have this configuration be made through this like little GUI thing. In the ESXi, you'll have this configuration made through the by creating a virtual switch. So important thing is we highly recommend having each link. So in case you would have 2 iSCSI links and 2 synchronization links, we would recommend having each single one of them in its own separate from everybody else subnet. So let's see. Synchronization channel is 172.16.31.30. The subnet mask is C, so 255.255.255.0. And then this guy is in a different subnet, and basically this is all in terms of IP configuration that we recommend, just say segregating those links from each other in different subnets. And the IP address, it doesn't matter at all because those are just crossover cables. As long as they can communicate with each other, we are very happy about it. That is basically it in terms of IP configuration. And let's move on to the jumbo frame settings. So we recommend setting jumbo frames to 9,000 or higher if your NIC supports that for synchronization and iSCSI channels, so for all of them. And it's pretty simple to do in Hyper-V and in VMware. In VMware, you would have to change the MTU size on the virtual switch to 9,000. In Hyper-V, you go into Properties, you click onto Configure, go into Advanced Settings, Jumbo Packet, and select the highest available value over here. Very important thing is to make this change on each single network link on both sides, because if you miss that on one of the sides, those networks cannot ping and can cause troubles and issues. Also, another thing, if you want to change the jumbo frame setting while having your production live, please keep in mind that when that change will be applied, your NIC will disappear for a couple of settings, which means it will go down. So you need to have a backup link if you want to do it live. If not, you have to schedule some maintenance for that. Another important thing, if we are talking about a bigger amount of nodes, not just 2-node hyperconversion or 3-node hyperconversion, if we're talking about almost any dedicated scenario or like 5-node scale-out scenarios, so on and so on, we will definitely have switches in there. And many like I've speak to a lot of customers that do enable jumbo frames everywhere except for the switches. This could cause to serious problems from StarWind perspective. There's going to be no data corruption, but there could be potential downtime, and the synchronization in StarWind will continuously like, how do you call it? We'll continuously like go offline and then go back online, resynchronize, then go offline again, and so on and so on. That's because like the network on one side and on the other side will have the MTU size or the packet size huge, and your switch won't be able to work with such huge package, so it is going to fragment those. It will take this huge package, divide it into many little packages, and then send it to the other link, and that's not good. So in case you have any switching, you've decided enabling jumbo frames, and I would recommend you to decide doing such. Please do not forget to do that on switches. And realistically, this is everything that StarWind recommends in terms of networks. I mean, it's pretty easy. Another thing I wanted to tell you that I just came up in my mind about networking. I had a support case some time ago, and it's a pretty common one, and it's described on our knowledge base, but since we are here, I can tell you about it. So when you will be setting StarWind up in the with Windows Server 2012 R2 or just Windows Server, this applies only to Windows Server. Often people, for some reason, think that StarWind needs iSCSI target feature. I don't remember. It's a feature or a role. Well, a role or a feature which is iSCSI target enabled. doesn't make much sense to me, but some people do think so, and that's okay. Like StarWind works with iSCSI. There is a word iSCSI there, like Microsoft iSCSI Target. So you might enable it, and then what will happen is someday your StarWind service will restart, or you will restart that, and then over here by specifying the server and going into configuration and network, you'll see that all these network links will just disappear. And you would think like, why StarWind cannot see any networks? I can ping them, they are available to the OS, everything seems fine, but StarWind simply cannot see it. So iSCSI Target works through the same port as StarWind does, and Windows iSCSI Target service starts earlier than StarWind service does. And when Windows iSCSI Target service starts, through that port it reserves NICs, and then when StarWind comes up it sees no NICs. Those NICs are not available to StarWind through that port, and StarWind just does not see them. As a solution, you can either turn off the Microsoft iSCSI Target and restart StarWind service, and that will fix it, or you can change the default StarWind port value, and that will also fix it. And the guidance for that you can find on the knowledge base. And I would guess, no, I mean, this is really it in terms of networking. So the last thing, and the most important one, I think, is the questions. And go ahead, ask me as many questions as you would like to, if you have any, of course. Oh, whoops. I've answered the question while I was muted. Josh asked a question. So when you say each iSCSI needs its own individual NIC, do you mean port or actual network interface card? I mean actual interface card, and not each iSCSI, but the host, the StarWind host 1 and StarWind host 2 needs to have at least one physical iSCSI connection, so that the targets from the first host can be connected to the second host through that link, and vice versa, the targets on the second host can be connected to the first host through that link. Mark asked a question, could you go through hardware and Hyper-V setup for the demo config? I can certainly do that, but not on this taproom meeting, because it's about networking. StarWind networking. If actually, if any of you would like to see the demonstration, and I mean you have a project that you would that you think StarWind would fit into. You'd like to test it out. You'd like to see the demonstration of how our software works, the hardware we are using, like for our demonstrations, so on and so on. At the end of this presentation, there are going to be contacts of our account managers. You can contact them, tell them about your project, request a demo, and one of our engineers will be more than happy to show you the demo, show you the hardware, and answer some of your questions if you will have those. Eric asks a great question. I assume this is all pre-configured if buying a two-node hyperconverged system. If you're including things like Jumbo frames, if you're buying a hyperconverged appliance from us, that includes StarWind hardware, the OS, it can include Veeam and 5.9, then yes, it's going to be fully pre-configured. So you'll basically unbox all your hardware, plug in the power, plug in the networking, and you can go ahead and run production. The only thing that might not be pre-configured there is your Microsoft cluster, but that is only because in order to create a Microsoft cluster, these nodes have to be in a domain. And if you requested, so if you would want to join these nodes into your existing domain, then once they would arrive to you, you would put them up, join to the domain. Our engineer will contact you and create a cluster for you. Or you can request a domain creation from us, and then we would create a domain controller for you, and the nodes will arrive with the cluster already configured. Bill asks a great question, but I'm not sure I can answer to that one. He asks, what is the iSCSI Connect max speed if we use Windows iSCSI target connection to a iSCSI disk which stores, I think, database? How about the performance? It's a very tricky question. Well, first of all, if you're talking about native Windows iSCSI target, I'm not sure what performance capabilities does it have. And if you're talking about StarWind here, then it depends on very many things. I mean, no matter StarWind or Windows, it would still depend on very many things. First of all, you're saying that there is an iSCSI disk which stores a database. It depends on what is that iSCSI disk, a physical one. How fast can those disks work? Let's imagine we have like 40 solid-state drives in there, like Intel Enterprise solid-state drives, so the drive speed is not a problem. And then the bottleneck would usually be the networking. And we can use a 10 gigabit, 20 gigabit, 40 gigabit, and 100 gigabit. And depending on which network link you will purchase or get and plug in, like you will get the performance of your hardware basically, and there will be a little overhead due to the iSCSI, and I would assume I think in StarWind we usually accept 10 to 15% of performance loss, and I'm not sure if you are asking about native Windows iSCSI target. So far, answered all of the questions. If you have any other questions, please do not be shy. Go ahead and ask those. If you don't, I'm happy. I would say then I am a good explainer. Okay, I actually see no questions coming, so I wanted to say, oh, there is one. How much performance loss is there if we install StarWind in a VMware through in a VM through VMware? I would say it is the same, about 10-15%. So, yep, and yeah, I wanted to say to say you a big thank you. I very much appreciate that you guys are coming to these meetings, and I would love if you will come to future meetings and let us know through email addresses that we have on our website. Let us know what you know, what would you like us to speak about on these tap rooms, and we would definitely look through the topics you suggest and maybe go ahead and pick like some of them. So here are the contacts I've been talking about, and again, thank you very much. Have a great Friday tomorrow, and have an awesome weekend, and I hope to see you on our future tap rooms. Bye bye.